Hello everybody, this is ManuS and welcome to another Eternal Contenders video. So it has been around 9 months, almost 10 months since I recorded the first version of this deck, and there have been a lot of new cards released since then, and a bunch of them really help this deck become a lot better and more consistent than it used to be. So it was time to finally revisit it. I recently revisited the idea on stream a bunch and later worked out an update together with Patrick Dickman once again, because we were working on a lot of decks together and he really liked the deck and the idea, and we had very similar opinions on how to build the latest version. And yeah, let's take a look at the deck. Alright, so this deck is fairly unique in Eternal. It has a very unique playstyle. It is sort of like an aggro control sort of grind deck that has its engine and just tries to work around what the opponent is doing, wear down the opponent's offense and stop it, and eventually just grind them down with card draw or a bunch of beasts. The deck mostly consists of spells, bunch of removal and card draw mostly, and the core Scream package basically, and a bit of supporting cards. The removal package is basically 4 Combust, 4 Torch, 2 Permafrost, and the Madness sort of in conjunction with Combust or Devour. Then we have 12 units, 4 Grenadin drone, and the 8 Scream targets for Direwood Beastcaller, for Gorgon Fanatic. Dark Return. Grenadin drone serves various purposes. First of all, it's actually a really good threat right now. People are only playing a bunch of units and a lot of spot removal, and drone is really good against spot removal and the amount of units that most decks present these days. Outside of aggro decks, we can handle very well with our removal suit, and then the drones can just chip away at the opponent's health. They also provide sack outlets for Combust and Devour to draw cards. Against aggro, where they have more units, they usually have a bunch of units that just die to a 1/1 Grenadin, and even if not, you can sometimes trade with a Cinder Yeti or something like that to trade the drone for one of their cards. And yeah, the card is surprisingly amazing. It's really cheap, gives you something to do early, and also makes the 2 banners in the deck a bit better. And yeah, the 2 infiltrators are just the core of the deck together with Haunting Scream. They are the advantage engine. Direwood Beastcaller early on beats aggro decks single-handedly basically. If this triggers once, that's usually enough to beat any aggro deck. And Gorgon Fanatic is just a card that lets us grind infinitely, draw a big part of our deck and just overwhelm the opponent with cards and keep throwing Fanatics at them or keep making a bunch of beasts. Dark Return basically gives us more of all 3 of those, either more drones, but most of the time it will just give us more Fanatics and Beastcallers, preferably after they have been Haunting Scream once, since they retain the charge and flying part of Haunting Scream, making them extremely good Dark Return targets. But sometimes you can just Dark Return back a unit that you stole with Madness and then killed, and then you can just Dark Return it and use it yourself to kill the opponent. That's another way to victory. I haven't done it much recently, but it's definitely something that can come up and to keep in mind. Then we have for Levitate, they're just a cantrip to make the deck run smoother and virtually smaller, but they also make the turn 3 Fanatic or Beastcaller that much more threatening, because if the opponent doesn't have a removal and is relying on ground blockers to stall them, you can just Levitate one of them, get in for the first hit, and that alone is already often enough to put you far enough ahead to win the game. And it's basically never bad you can just cycle it on a random unit. Most decks have at least a bunch of units, so you can always just kind of cycle it away when it's not doing anything else. And it also is helpful in dealing with opposing Aegises on units, which can otherwise be annoying, from like Groundwatch Paladin, Shelterwing Rider, Icaria, Throne Warden, that sort of stuff. Vadius, Snowcrust Yeti. There's a fair share of annoying Aegis units running around. Then the removal suit of Permafrost, Torch, Combust, and Madness is just a very flexible package. The 2 Permafrost are just like the last 2 cards that we had room for, and it's another cheap removal that answers most units, even temporarily shuts down a Magto if you have no better way of dealing with it, and it's another cheap way to not fall behind early on or even push through one of the infiltrators. Combust is just a universal answer, and Torch is super efficient. Then there's the card draw package of 4 Devour, 4 Quarry, 4 Strategize. Strategize adds a ton to the deck, makes it that much more consistent, lets you bottom access power or other unwanted, useless cards in a given situation, giving you a lot of card selection, and digs fairly deep at 2 cards. Quarry does a similar thing, but it doesn't let you put away bad cards from your hand, but it virtually only costs 1 because it reduces the card you're getting by 1, so it has its own upsides. And yeah, Devour is just a combo piece with Madness, or lets you just like draw cards with Drone sometimes, or you just Haunting Scream a Beastcaller and before it dies you Devour it to just draw cards, or you use it in response to opposing removal. Or even at 5 power you can use it to deploy one of these guys and protect them from, say, a silence, or simply if the opponent permafrost them, you can Devour them to scream them in the opponent's face, for example. And yeah, the power base is 10 crests, 2 banners to be slightly less slow, because more crests over the banners would definitely be clunkier. The banners can sometimes be ready on turn 2 or turn 3 thanks to drones, and a lot of the time they can be ready on turn 4 to at least play 2 2-cost cards, for example, where Crest would definitely be slower. And we have 9 Waystones and 4 Diplomatic Seals. There's no sigils, since if we don't have any seats, there's no need in running sigils. The Waystones are better sigils then, and the Waystones add enough to the deck that they are better than having like 9 sigils and these 2 banners be seats, for example. The Granite Waystones are actually really good. They provide you with more free Grenadins to harass the opponent, to jump block or trade block against small units, or provide sack fodder or Combust and Devour, making them more reliable. Cobalt Waystone, also decent, since Face Aegis prevents you from being burned out by aggro decks, or sometimes just from like a Sabotage or Rain of Frogs or Varus Choice, that sort of stuff. There's a bunch of things that target us that we don't mind stopping with an Aegis. And yeah, Amethyst Waystone is the worst of the 3, basically, since Nightfall is often a drawback, but this deck in certain situations and matchups can make good use of the Waystone, because it has a bunch of really powerful draws and can manipulate its draw steps really well. So in like slower matchups against control decks, for example, you sometimes want to use the Nightfall of this, but people I think still overrate Nightfall. Nightfall most of the time is a downside. It's not something desirable. But this deck can sometimes make good use of it, so having access to it over Shadow Sigils is worth it, I think, because you can pretty well control whether you use it or not. And then there's for Diplomatic Seal. The problem is the card is usually only functional on turns 1 and 2, very rarely on turn 3, and never past that. But it is necessary because it's the only way to get to reasonable amounts of influence for all the colors. We have 15 of each color, which is barely enough to reasonably consistently have all 3 colors early on. And without Seal that wouldn't be possible. it is annoying and frustrating if you have to keep two color opening hands and then have, like, for example, a Crest and a Waystone, and then you have 3 influence already, and then Seal doesn't provide you third color. But what can you do? There's no better workaround. This is the like best possible power base. And the choice of banner is just specifically because our cheapest unit is fire, so we're often gonna go Granite Waystone or Diplomatic Seal on drone on turn 1, and then if we have a banner on turn 2, we want it to be the other 2 colors, so Feln, to be able to Quarry or Strategize, for example, or Devour. That's why there's Feln banner. Also because we have most of our, the highest amount of single color sources is also fire, so since we are most likely to have a fire Waystone, a Granite Waystone, the best complementary dual is the Feln banner here. Just to explain why there's specifically Feln banner and not another banner, because you could, for example, shuffle that around with changing the Crest numbers and changing the Waystone numbers if you wanted, but there's a specific reason why it's the way it is. And yeah, the deck is really, really cool. It plays very adjustable, like you have to constantly reevaluate what your role is. Are you the aggressor? Are you the control deck in a given situation? Changes from game to game, from draw to draw, and even from turn to turn. And it's important to always assess what your role is, what your goal is in a specific turn. If you have to try and like play defensively and buy yourselves time, or be aggressive and push for things, and so on, and be resource efficient and play around everything, because there's no single card in the game this deck cannot theoretically beat. Every single card in the game that exists and interacts profitably with this deck, the deck theoretically has lines to play around it, if it has the cards and the time to do so. Which means if you're also under pressure, you might not be able to, but it's also important to look for ways to play around stuff if you have the time, and be able to see when you cannot realistically play around things without losing, so you have to pretend the things don't exist and hope the opponent doesn't have them to at least win if they don't have it. But yeah, I would still say, like I said, I think in the V1 10 months ago, this is probably easily the hardest to play deck in the game, and there's so much room for like impact of decision making, skill-based results, and the skill ceiling of this deck is incredibly high. And a lot of the time, if you lose, it's gonna be your fault, not the deck's fault. And the deck is like very unintuitive to play, I think, for most people in most situations and draws. There will be some games and draws where you just have everything and just blow the opponent to Kingdom Come. But these are the games that everybody can win. It's about winning all the other games where not everything is going perfect and the deck just hands you the win, because the deck can win most games if you like pilot it properly. I'm currently sitting at around 64% win rate over 64 games. There's at least a handful of like sloppy, unfocused losses in there from just like kind of grinding ladder in not a game mode while watching like TV shows or being distracted, or while streaming, focusing on chat and stuff like that. So it's not even like the maximum win percentage that you can get from the deck. And I think together with Patrick's results, I think the results that I know of him that he told me that he had with the deck were something around like 32-10, which is more than 75% win rate, because he doesn't play that much, and when he plays, he plays very focused and 100%, so he always gives his A game, so he makes very little mistakes with the deck. So his results are very clean. So that gives you an idea where the win rate can be if you give your very best and play the deck optimally and really focus and eke out every inch. And yeah, the deck is also incredibly fun to play, and also a really good tournament deck, I think, as you can see by us steamrolling Eternal Warcry Fire last Sunday in the Team League. You can watch the VODs in the Team League Season 2 playlist. Alright, that was a pretty long deck tech. Hope you guys still sat through it and appreciate the in-depth explanation of it, but now it's time to focus on games, jump into ranked, show the deck in action, give our best, and show you guys how to play the deck and how to work around things when things are not going all smooth sailing and easy. Alright, stay tuned for the first game coming up.